What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Bodybuilding 365 podcast. Today marks the start of a new series called Beyond the Barbell. Well, with myself and whoever is on, any guest, we'll be talking about the ins and outs of the bodybuilding industry through science. We'll be talking about diet, training, supplementation, and much, much more. So, to dive right in, my very first guest of this series is Dr. Dale Bartek. How are you, sir?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, excited to have you, man. I've known you probably since probably 3 or 4 years through Instagram, just back and
A
forth.
little while. It's been a little while. I've
Yeah,
watched you grow, man. I've watched you grow big time. You probably put on what 30 pounds of muscle since I first knew you.
yeah. I think 25, 30. Because
Yeah,
I was like 230, big bulk, and I think I was like 195 when we started first started like knowing each other. So it's been a growth period.
definitely. I was like tuning into your posts and being like, every time I see him post, he's looking bigger. What's going on?
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
definitely it's a fun time, man. But I remember the first time I somehow some way followed you. I don't know if it was through the explore page or something, but then you had some contest where you were giving away like a whole training program with like hip mobility drills and like all this other stuff, agility, and I won it, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I printed the whole thing out, was following it, and it worked amazing. It was great.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, obviously, like you said, the growth was there. So I have to. That was definitely you, half of it. So
that's where it all began. So, I mean, shoot, that was like what, 2017, maybe?
yeah. Because my freshman year, yeah,
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go, man. So
yeah.
you can credit me for all your growth in bodybuilding.
No, yeah, it was all you. I didn't do anything. I just followed the program.
Yeah, man.
Um, but getting right into it, just for viewers' sake, if you want to just give some background on kind of your education, where you come from, and how you got to where you are today.
Definitely. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and basically what that means is I help people with broken stuff. So it all started off for me, and how you and I, Greg, have so much in common is because we both played baseball. So it all started off for me. I played baseball through college, became a physical therapist, and really, what's so funny about the whole thing is that I myself had injuries as well as I was
Mm,
going playing. So I first, got introduced to physical therapy and what I do for a living by being injured and then getting some help from other professionals.
yeah,
And that's what made me decide, hey, I want to help people overcome their injuries, perform better, with whatever their goal might be. I want to help people do that. So I'm a physical therapist. That's what it comes down to. I,
yeah,
like Greg, I share an interest in training hard and building muscle. And I know a lot of people who are listening to this probably feel the same way about working your body hard, pushing it to an extreme, getting results, and trying to stay healthy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually going to grad school for physical therapy this summer, starting. So
Man,
we're very very similar. I've had my fair share of injuries. You know, you partial tear of the UCL, broken wrist, this and that. So we have very similar paths. And I hope I end up as a PT also. Because actually through those injuries, like you did, I was motivated to pursue this profession.
definitely.
So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but I'm sure it's fun when you're at that level like you are.
Well, I was so pumped too, man, when I heard you wanted to have me on because I've been watching what you're doing with all the bodybuilding, man. I'm seeing,
Yeah,
you're developing your body and you're helping other people to, develop their body as well in terms of muscular development. But what's so
mm,
interesting about that is that sometimes people totally neglect taking care of their body in pursuit of those
yeah,
goals. So, there's physical therapy on one end over here where it's like the boring stuff. And then there's high level, high intensity training, like bodybuilding style training. Like if you follow Dorian Yates or these guys who are
yeah,
to an extreme, right?
yeah,
And then there does exist somewhere in between is where that's what I teach to my clients. And that's what I do for myself is trying to say, hey, how can I push my body real hard, but also not neglect my overall health? So that's why,
yeah.
when I found out you want to have me on, I was like, oh man, it's going to be great.
Yeah, and actually kind of flows into the first topic. Looking at some of your recent posts, you kind
Yeah.
of talk about and mention the importance of prehab rather than rehab.
Oh,
So
definitely.
I know that in college, my coach talked about that a lot because he wanted us to be in the AT room, athletic training room,
Yeah, yeah.
as much as we can so that we don't get injured to just be there as much as we have to be. So it's really just like bulletproofing your shoulders, knees,
Exactly.
hips,
You're
and
right on the money. You're
yeah,
right on the.
you got to
I
prime your
like
body. Yeah, go ahead.
definitely. I like the saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Have you ever heard that
Yeah,
before?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
And what that means is like, I mean, let's just use bodybuilding for example. I love bodybuilding, man. I've been trying to get my body to grow for years. I know you the same, but you know, go to the gym and try to train hard when you're hurt and tell me how that goes for you. You know,
yeah,
it's not going to go well, man. It's not going to go well. You're not going to reach the goals and hit the level that you want. So hence the reason why we need to prevent that from happening in the first place, right?
yeah,
So that we can actually continue training at a high level. I mean,
yeah,
it's really that simple, man. And it's just something that probably is more near and dear to my heart than I can even explain because I don't know, I've been training in the gym now for 15 years, man. And when I first started training, I didn't care about preventing injuries. I wanted to build some muscle, right? I
yeah,
wanted to get in
yeah,
there and get to work. Now, as I get a little bit older, I start to understand that, hey, there is a major, major, factor that comes to injury prevention, actually keeping your body in the position so that you can train hard for a long period of time.
yeah. And I think I'm sure you've encountered these individuals too, where they're strong as hell in the gym. They're getting better every week, every month, but
Yeah.
something's always bothering them. Something's always hurting them. It's never like perfect. If they're doing, bench press or I got a cranky shoulder. It's hurting
Exactly.
me for years. It's one of those things like we said before, the prime your body beforehand so that it's not such a big traumatic experience to your muscles, joints, tendons, etc. That you're ready for that stimulus and that you're not fighting through the injury as well as the weight you're doing.
You're right on the money, man. You're right on the money. And it's
Yeah.
funny, I live in Las Vegas, Greg. I don't know if you know that,
Yeah.
but we have a pretty big bodybuilding community out here in Vegas.
Hmm.
I've actually been lucky enough to work with quite a few professional bodybuilders,
Really.
on a physical therapy standpoint. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to drill in their head, man, when you're working with them. They're like, hey, you actually need to improve the mobility of your shoulder because it's actually going to help you develop more muscle. If
Yeah.
when you're doing overhead press, if you can actually do an overhead press, your shoulders are going to develop better than if you can't do an overhead press. I know that sounds like so
Yeah.
basic, but it's so hard to drill into the muscle development community that, hey, if you take care of your body, your training efforts are going to actually be maximized.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. I'm in New Jersey, so it's like the North Jersey, at least because that's where I'm from. Um, there's a few high level gyms up here that are really bodybuilding based. Um, and one of the things I've seen the past 2 3 years, there's more physiotherapists, sports therapists that are working on their Instagram names are like the bodybuilding
Yeah.
therapist or whatever. And guys like Sean Clarita, who just won the Mr. Olympia 212, they're working on shoulder extension, shoulder, all this because they know that if I can gain that 1% of shoulder mass that the other
Dude,
guys can't, that's the
you're right on the
difference.
money, man. Are you familiar with like Ben Pakulski and let's
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
even like the Mountain Dog, John
yeah,
Meadows, those
yeah,
guys they've kind of dove down the idea that, hey, you can actually learn about your body and become a little bit more intelligent, train smart, and still be, an absolute muscle monster as well.
yeah.
Those guys to me were like really inspirational to say like, oh shoot, that's how it's done.
Yeah, John Meadows, when we started talking about this, stuck out right away. And I'm so glad that his YouTube got so popular and still
And I love it.
popular
Yeah.
because he's one of those guys that he doesn't have the fancy, editing and this and that. He's just, what's up, everyone? I'm John Meadows. And then this is why, whatever
So
the topic
authentic,
is.
man. So
Yeah.
authentic. Like I'm like a little kid when I sit down to watch John Meadows. I'm like, what am I going to learn today?
Yeah. And it's crazy because it's not like he's going in his head. He knows the reasons, like scientifically, why he's giving you these 21 reasons your triceps aren't growing or whatever it may be. But it's the drills, the exercises are so simple. They're just overlooked.
Dude,
It's
exactly. So anyone
crazy.
who might be listening to this, who doesn't know who John Meadows is, go look him up right away.
Please.
The game.
Please. So kind of switching topics, but in the same realm, as well as we talked about baseball, you have athletic baseball, and then you have the strength RX. We talked about the prehab, the bulletproofing the shoulders and stuff like that. But I also see you kind of go into the bodybuilding trends, for lack of a better term, of the blood flow restriction bands. I actually have bands myself for like the thicker ones for the legs and the smaller for the arms. I kind of have a good idea of how they function, the sets and reps, but if you can just dive into that and kind of talk about it a little bit more, I think
this is such an interesting topic. So we're going to need more than 40 minutes for this, Greg, but the blood flow restriction is really interesting, and it's probably it's become pretty well known in the bodybuilding community, as you know, because they say, you know, when you're able to restrict the blood flow of a muscle, and then you take the cuff, if you will, off, and all that blood flows down distally toward the extremities, it's increasing IGF-1, all different types of growth factors. It's increasing local levels of blood flow. It's just bringing so many nutrients to that muscle, which, as you know, is what helps a muscle grow, right? Yeah. But that same idea, Greg, is why it works in rehab as well. So say, you know, you strained your calf. Okay, so we do some blood flow restriction on the leg and have you do just, let's say, calf raises, just to start, you know, bringing back your calf. We remove the restriction. Now all that blood flow comes rushing through the calf. And, you know, for those who don't know, blood flow is what actually helps something heal. Okay, all the nutrient flow into a muscle is what helps it heal. So helps build muscle, helps you recover. I mean, what else do you need, right? Yeah. But how to program it is, I think, important. And that might be what your original question was. Yeah. Is because you can't just slap a cuff on your arm and then go to town on some curls and say you're going to get better. You have to actually train with a little higher volume, a little less resistance. Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, it can become a little bit unsafe. So what I do is I like to program like 4 to 5 sets. So let's say I'm looking for a sick, ridiculous arm pump in the gym. I'll put the cuffs right around my arm here. Okay. And I'll go ahead and I'll do 30 curls. Okay. 30 curls with maybe 50% of the weight I would normally use for a set of 12. So for me, I'd grab like a 20-pound preset bar, go to town. Okay. Put it down, shake the arms out a second, go back again for another set of 15, another set of 15, another set of 15. So 30, 15, 15, 15. Take the cuff off, do 15 more. Yeah. Okay. Again, the key here though, Greg, is lighter weight than you would normally use. And you're going to, you know, because you've done it before, right?
Yeah.
The pump.
I've actually done it by myself in the gym. And then actually when I was working in a PT clinic, one of the students actually, that was their topic of presentation. Yeah. So they had, I was like the patient. And I think it's 30% of your 1 rep max.
30% of your 1 rep max. Yeah. And that's in terms of like rehab. Sure. But, you know, if you're doing it for like a training effect, like I was saying for like the arms, you know, no one really knows what their 1 rep max is on their curls, right? So I would just say go about 50% of what your training weight would be, maybe for about 12 reps. You know, so awesome technique for both things, man, rehab and training.
So another question, do you think that, so say I do it strictly for arms. So I do arms every Friday for X amount of hours, whatever. So do you think it's too much if I do it every single week? If someone does it every single week for, say, straight bar curls, is it too much?
That's a good question. And there's not a lot of research yet about how often you can do it. I think the biggest thing that I tell people is if we don't have any really good research to go off of, we have to just listen to our body, right? So the good thing about blood flow restriction is that it's not super taxing on your body in terms of breaking down muscle tissue in the way that a normal training session would. So the short answer is yes, I think you're safe to do it every week if you choose to do so, but listen to your body. You know, so if I did it for 6 weeks in a row and on the 7th week, and I'm just feeling a little sluggish, a little fatigued, take a break. It's not going to kill you, right? Yeah. but I would say you're probably safe to train it every week. It's a great method to switch things up. There he is right
Yeah.
there.
I was looking for it. I couldn't find it for the longest time.
Yeah, it's down at the bottom. So you can see an important distinction here, Greg, is to understand where to put the cuff. Okay, so you have to put the cuff. There's two spots where you can put it. Number one is going to be right below the deltoid, right there where I have it. That's if you're training the upper extremity. Now, the important thing to understand is whether you're training your arms or you're using blood flow restriction, maybe to train your chest, you still have to put the cuff in the same spot around your arm right there. You never put the cuff below that spot. So you don't want to put on your forearm or your wrist, because that's actually dangerous to the arteries of your body.
Yeah, because do you want to not halt, but decrease that venous blood return?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yep, very good. But you don't want to stop arterial function.
Yeah.
So very good. And then so what you'll see is then for the legs, you want to put it kind of up on that top of your thigh. Okay, so really regardless of why you're using blood flow restriction, those are the two areas that you really should only consider using it. Don't put it around your ankle. Don't put it around your neck.
I've seen people, personal trainers at gyms, put it right below the knee joint just to work on their calves. And I'm like, it just, if you think logically, like if not even science, like, well, first of all, you can just Google it and you'll know. But I'm like, it's just like, it's probably making it worse than.
Go teach him, Greg. Next time you see it, be like, hey man, you got to cut it out.
Yeah. I was a smaller, younger Greg at that point. So I was keeping my distance from the big guys.
I got you.
Fair enough. So I was surprised you said you can use it for chest also.
Yeah. So basically the way that it works is, although if you have the cuff right here, okay, what you're restricting blood flow downstream, right? Yeah. So it's no brainer for the downstream blood flow. But if I have the cuff right here and then I go to start doing push-ups, okay, the blood is going to start pooling regardless in your body somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
And so whether you take it off, the blood still is going to flow somewhere else. So it's not necessarily just the blood flowing to the muscle you're trying to train, but the flowing of blood throughout your system as a whole.
Gotcha.
What some of the benefits are. Because, hey, IGF-1 is IGF-1, man. If it's in your blood, good.
That's
good
true, yeah. So kind of moving on to your Strength RX program, or program, I guess you'd call it, with Will Vargas. How did you two meet?
Basically? Oh man, I met Will when I treated his daughter in the therapy clinic that I used to work at, and him and I started talking about training, and the rest is history. It's all you need is a good friend in the gym, and you never know what.
So, as we said, you're a physical therapist. He is a personal trainer.
He's a personal trainer and a massage therapist by trade. Yeah, but I don't know. I consider him to be a friend and a colleague. So I don't really care what he calls himself. The most important thing is that, what he does and what I do, we agree on so many different things as far as how we approach our training and how we help other people. So we're able to grow something pretty cool.
So you guys run this 28-day challenge. Did that start June 1st?
It started June 1st. Yeah, we did a 28-day challenge this month where, like going back to what I was talking about at the beginning, Greg, there's really boring physical therapy and then there's super high level training.
Yeah.
And then there's where most people exist is somewhere in between, right? Like most people can't do, Mike Menser one set per body part, right? They can't handle that intensity.
Yeah.
So what Will and I have done is kind of catered to maybe more of like the average person who's really just trying to be healthy and in good shape, but wants to kind of be a little bit more than average therapy and a little bit less. And so we created the Strength RX, where that is basically you go through our 28-day challenge. We give you a program that is fit for your goals. So in the challenge, you get to choose between one of 5 programs. There's a strength and hypertrophy program. There is a conditioning and fat loss program. There's a foundational fitness program for someone who's just started working out.
Yeah.
There is, a sports performance program. Then there's our personal program that we're following. So when you join the challenge, what we're challenging you to do really is start to use intelligent training methods. Because within the programs, like, you've had my programs before, talk about warming up properly. We do mobility training. We train hard with resistance. And then we prioritize our rest and recovery. So the 28-day challenge just gives you an opportunity to come into our world and see our methods and see how we train.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, that's it. So if anyone's listening, they want to do a 28-day challenge of, really kind of intelligently designed training, let's go.
So can they still start it now if they wanted to? Oh,
perfect. What happens when you join the challenge, you get the 28 days from when you start.
Okay.
Which can be different for everybody.
Yeah, I'll definitely put, obviously, all of the Instagram tags in the bio. So look at the bio for all those tags. But I was reading through when you click on that link, all the information you give. And I think I should highlight, you put, who is this not for? Someone who's looking for a quick or magic pill, a quick fix. And even though people are going to say, oh, well, it's a 28-day challenge, I should lose 20 pounds in 28 days. And who knows? But it's after 28 days, you have to continue with those, the protocols that they provide you. And actually, when I was talking to my mom actually about this, she was like, yeah, I really think it's kind of weird. Like, isn't it like a quick thing? I didn't even tell her this like quick fix magic pill point. She's like, yeah, I never really trusted those. And I was like, I get what you're saying, but it's one of those things that they give you, and as if someone were to join the program, just like I did with my mother, you would explain it to them also. You guys give a basis and like a basic breakdown of what they have to do, and they continue it. The client continues it after the 28 days. They don't say, you and Will aren't going to say, all right, for breakfast, you're going to have this, this, and this, and then you're going to have lunch. That you give a basic protocol, you give a training protocol, you help them along, and then you kind of put them on their way and deal with the real world.
You've got it right on the money. Basically, what we're challenging people to do is create new habits, Greg. It's all about creating habits. If you, like I said, you put on 30 pounds of muscle since I talked to you last. You did that by habits, right? You've been in the gym thousands of hours to create that, right?
Yeah.
You've been very consistent with your meals, right? Those are habits. So the 28-day challenge is a way that we can help people actually start to instill good training habits, training with a smart program, following a diet protocol that is actually sustainable, because you're right on the money. You're not going to get results in 28 days, but the habits that you form in 28 days can give you results long-term.
Yeah. And I like how on the Strength RX page, you obviously talk about the, the nutrition and all other training aspects, execution, stuff like that. But you also mentioned the importance of, kind of going back to a previous point, priming the body. And one way you guys talk about it is through meditation. Quick as 5 minutes in the morning when you get up, or whenever you can during the day. And the importance of self-reflection and kind of gratitude for what you have, and just kind of comparing yourself to other people. I think it's one of those common themes you see in successful people, that it's one of those things that it seems very lame before, like when you're talking about it, but and that's how I personally felt until I started actually during quarantine, because with all the time in the world, I might as well push aside 5 minutes for this. And it was one of those things that even if I couldn't think of certain things for gratitude or self-reflection, this and that, just those 5 minutes of silence and me controlling my breathing and just getting my mind connected with my body for that day. It was one of those things that you just feel kind of open. Like after like a good run, you just feel like open. It's weird.
Weight has been lifted, right? And I think, Greg, it all comes down to like, starting with why. Why are you doing something in the first place? So whether it's meditation, or whether you're taking a little bit of time for yourself to just reflect on, hey, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, why am I working so hard in the gym? What do I want to achieve? And so that's probably how I personally approach my meditation. Is I say like, all right, busy day, I got to get to the gym tonight to train. So I sit and reflect and think about, okay, why do I want this so bad? Like, what do I want to get out of this? Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it begins, man.
It's one of those things. I forgot who said it, but it's like you said, I want to get to the gym tonight. I have to do X, Y, and Z. So basically, I have to do all the things for work, do whatever I have to do for the day in order to get to the gym.
Yeah.
And you say that's your why. And some people kind of this is the phrase. It's like the captain's driving the ship, but there's no destination. He doesn't know where he's going. You're just gonna just wander around, and that's kind of how it correlates to life. You're just gonna be like, yeah, I want to get to the gym, but it's not I have to. It's yeah, I want to get there. And if I do, all right, cool. If I don't, well, there's always tomorrow.
Yeah, that's just not how you can approach things, man. You know, you just you can't approach your goals that way. And I think going back to like the 28-day challenge, that's kind of what it's about. It's about saying, hey, you know, I understand that you want to get in shape, but you know, you're not doing the right stuff. So take this challenge, you get some new habits. But you know, what you're saying has so much validity. And to anybody out there who's thinking, man, I really want this. I want this goal, whatever that goal may be. You have to align yourself with, hey, why do I really want this? And what is it going to mean for my life if I can achieve it? And if you do that, man, it's going to guide the ship, as you say.
Yeah. It's one of those things that when I see other people doing that kind of wandering, I just know it's like, it's just so easy to, it's like, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not as hard as people think to kind of get your life at least started in the right direction.
Definitely, man.
It's because, like say you want to get to the gym and do two other things, and you're usually doing 0 or 1 of those things because you're lazy, you put things off, whatever it is. If you do at least 2 and you start making it kind of a routine of doing at least 2 things out of 3, well, that's a step. That's another step. That's the brick you just added to the wall.
Exactly.
All right, in 6 months, all right, now I'm doing 3. All right, now I got 2 hours in my day because I'm not watching TV or playing video games. Let's add a 4th. And just that's where that success kind of grows.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I couldn't agree with you more. Anything that I've done in my life that was hard work, I had to approach it that way. You know, one brick at a time.
Yeah, it's definitely at first. Deep. What's that?
So we're getting deep. I love it.
Yeah, we went from blood flow restriction to just right into the deep end. It's,
nice, dude.
Might as well, yeah. But kind of going back to the coaching aspect. I kind of know the answer to this already of how you'd answer, but I just want to hear what you want to say about it. What is your opinion on a physiotherapist, personal trainer, et cetera, giving a one-size-fits-all kind of plan to a client?
Yeah. You already know the answer, Greg. It's not good, man. And the reason why it's not good is because every single person has a unique starting point, and then they have their own unique goals. Now, even though it may seem similar, their starting point may seem similar to another person, or their goal might seem similar. No 2 people are the same. Okay. And you can't approach training the body that way. Like me and you, man, we have a lot of the same goals. Like I'd love to put on 10 pounds of lean muscle. Yeah. I'm sure you'd love to do the same. You and I could probably not go to the gym and do the exact same training to achieve that result. Because 1, you'd probably get there way faster than I am because you got better genetics than I do. But 2, you know, I have an old shoulder injury I got to work around, you know, and like, you know, I tore my quad 2 years ago. So where does that come in? You know?
Yeah.
So everyone has their own unique starting point. Everyone has their own unique goals. There is no one size fits all approach. So my advice to anybody who's out there who maybe has a coach or a trainer, really ask yourself when you're working with your coach or trainer, are you doing things that they want you to do, or are they helping you do things that you want to do? Because that's what a coach is, right?
Yeah. From what you said, there's 2 things I thought of. With that coaching relationship, I think you have to ask yourself these questions, and also don't be afraid to ask the coach themselves. Definitely. Because if you ask a simple question, like just something simple about either the training or diet, whatever it may be, and they either take a long time to respond if it's over via email, or they just don't have an answer, then you might have to kind of explore your options, or just really either settle for it or explore your options, really.
I agree. You know, a good coach has an answer to difficult questions.
Yeah, yeah, and they're expecting for their client to ask questions because
Should be.
that's their relationship. And the second thing is going back to John Meadows. He was saying, obviously, he coaches high level bodybuilders, and he was saying basically that to a certain extent, each client, unless you've had some previous work with them, will get a one size fits all, but that will 10 out of 10 times change within the first week because you have to kind of get a basis. And then without that first week, saying I'm strictly talking bodybuilding, obviously,
Of course.
then you're going to know, all right, well, this food source makes them bloated. So let's take that out. They can't train this heavy, this often. Let's switch that up. But then person B, all right, they can double their training because they can do 2 times a week each muscle. And that person, all right, we can double their food because they're actually losing weight with all this food.
Yeah.
So like you said, it can't be a cookie cutter, just everybody gets it. Because when you get that high level like John Meadows or anybody else really, just a trainer at LA Fitness, they're going to have questions asked and they have to have answers. That makes sense.
Definitely. And you have to take into consideration where you're currently at as well. You know, in the bodybuilding community, we talk about things like newbie gains and things like that. Greg, I remember my first year when I got done playing baseball out of college, my first summer, I went home and put on 10 pounds of muscle. And I went back for, you know, to start like my last semester, because I did a fifth year. And everyone was like, man, you know, how'd you put on that muscle? I was like, I trained, right? Yeah. But it was the first time I had ever started a real training regimen where I was in the gym and I was making those minor adjustments like you're talking about. Now I can't put on 10 pounds of muscle anymore. My situation has changed, right? You know, I've been training for long enough now. So if I put on a half a pound of muscle in 6 months, I'm thrilled, right? So situations change, people change, starting points are different, and you have to really find out, you know, how to set yourself up for success. And no situation is ever going to be the same or constant.
Yeah, and going back to the school thing where people are asking, you know, how'd you do this? How'd you do this? And like you said, it's just as simple as creating a plan. I know at my school, on my team, we have in the fall usually starting like I always have like 50 guys.
Yeah.
And I'm usually out of the handful, maybe 8 people that actually like train and work out regularly, outside of being like, you know, sports specific stuff like that. And everybody always asks me questions like, how do you gain so much weight? Like off season, like I'm 200 right now. When I go full bulk was 230, my highest. And I'm like, I play outfield, so I still have to be fast. And I'm like, I just breathe harder. I just prepare myself. I'm not just going to the gym, eating, practice. I'm going to the gym, stretching, going to the practice or games, stretching, getting mobility work, doing. It's a full-time job within itself.
Definitely. And dude, you're right on the money, Greg. There's no shortcut, man. Everyone wants a shortcut. What they don't want to know is the thousands of hours you've spent training and stretching and preparing your food to get your 3,500 calories in, or however many calories you need to get to 230, right?
I wish it was that low, man.
I can only imagine what it is.
I think last year I was at like 5,500.
Damn.
I was just for some reason I was just burning through it. I was fine. And then this year, which is weird, I was like 225 last year. This past bulk I went to 230 and I was like 4,600 and I was like, all right, I can eat more, but I don't have to because I want to hover here. But and it's one of those things, going back to what we were talking about, where people understand like, I couldn't do what you did. I can't do that. I can't. You have too much. What's it called? Not determination, like
structure.
Yeah, structure. Like I'm not gonna cave in for.
Right.
You know, I'll have the occasional pizza, but I fit it into my plan. I don't have it twice a week. And what boggles my mind, oh my God, every game day we'll have like, it's a doubleheader, 85 degrees out. And like, if we have to get there at 10, I'll get up early so I can have 2 meals, you know, have energy. And I go to the field and some pitchers are like, I had like a Bang energy and like a Nutrigrain bar. And I'm like, oh my God, like how do you even I'd be on the floor. I don't even know how you function.
No, but again, Greg, it comes down to if you want something bad enough.
Yeah.
I always, you know, tell people this. If you want something bad enough, you're going to be willing to do what you need to do to get there.
Yeah.
It's the people who just kind of want it. They like the idea of being jacked and lean, but they don't really want it bad enough, because given the choice between pizza or eating a good meal consistently, they're going to take the pizza, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, those guys to me are people who I say, you don't want it bad enough. You know, you obviously don't want it bad enough.
I think it's funny that it's kind of almost like a common theme that once people graduate, they're like, oh, now I'm going to go to the gym now. And some people, a lot of people I know, it's like when they are looking for a job, they're like, I have nothing else better to do, so I'm going to go to the gym and get in shape. And most do, which is great. But it's like, it's not almost too late, but you made it harder for yourself, because I've been doing this structure since freshman year, sophomore year. So now it's just my life. It feels,
you know what, Greg?
Yeah.
As a result of that, when you're 30, you're gonna still be on the structure, and where you're gonna be.
Yeah.
You know, what are you, 22, 23? You know, so
21.
where it's 21, where you're gonna be in 10 years, you're not even gonna recognize yourself, man. You're gonna be so far down the line of the dedication that you've put in. And those guys you mentioned that started training, they're gonna stop. They're gonna stop. Okay. Because they haven't built in the consistency and the dedication, the routine that you have. And you're going to see those guys in 10 years, and, you know, they might not be where you are. And you're just going to say, well, it's no wonder, because they didn't want what you wanted bad enough.
Yeah. And it's always I always hear some friends like, it's crazy, man, genetics. And it goes back to that whole debate where it's like, if you knew what I did, if you knew how much food I had to eat, like going back to the bulk thing, how much I had to, like, you know, almost like freaking gag eating this food back to back. It's like,
man,
no
I've done
idea.
it too, brother. I've done it too. Believe me, I know. I've wolfed down like oatmeal, you know, like just like buckets of oatmeal. I'll put on a couple pounds of muscle and just been like, you know,
and it's crazy how it's like, they're like, oh, whatever, in the gym. It's like, you have no idea. I keep going back to it, but it's like, you have no idea what I do, because I always had a single room in the dorms or whatever. I'm like, you have no idea what I do behind closed doors to make sure that I do this. Because if I try to, going back to injury wise, if I tried to do what I'm doing in the gym with the heavy loads and this and that, I'd for sure get hurt in the gym.
Oh yeah.
There's no way. And thank God, I mean, not thank God, but my injuries that I've gotten have been baseball or other stuff. Nothing has been related to the gym. Because I think I've focused so much on that to be primed for the gym. And it's one of those things that through baseball, and it can be through any other sport with anybody, you learn your body and how it reacts. And especially like being a pitcher, I knew if I threw it over here, all right, well, that's because I was too early. I released it late. So I kind of know my body in that fast twitch acceleration movement. And especially in the slow ones in the gym, I'll know that, all right, if I feel it more here, that means I'm pressing in a certain direction, and I want to hit the lower, so I'll do this.
Exactly.
And it's just like, obviously with experience.
Process, man. Yeah, it's all a process of self-discovery and self-mastery, where you're able to say, you know, if you do something for long enough, you're going to become an expert at it, right? And you're going to reap the benefits of being an expert. Like you're saying, hey, I'm trying to develop my chest. I've been training for long enough to know that, hey, if I'm not feeling it in the right spot, I change an angle, right? Maybe I drop the weight, maybe I add the weight, whatever it may be. The whole point is the process of progressive mastery of a skill, and how that actually helps you become what you want to be. Gotta master it.
Yeah, it's the whole trial and error. And actually, I was actually talking to one of my old teammates, because he's come back from an injury and wants to get ready for family member's wedding. He wants to drop some weight, get back into the gym. And I was telling him, for both gym and nutrition, it's a bunch of, just like I said before with the fake clients. If I have, you know, ground beef before the gym and I feel bloated the entire workout and I can't train, all right, I can have that maybe as my last meal, but I can't have it before the gym because it's going to ruin my workout. Same thing goes to the gym. I have a list on my phone in notes. I told him to do the same, that I have exercises that feel great or that work, exercises that don't. And I have a list. So if someone says, oh, you want to do seated barbell press. I'm like, shoulder press. I'm like, nope, I'm
Nope.
good. I'll do a machine rather. I'll do dumbbells or I'll do Smith machine because I know it's going to be more uncomfortable and not really work my muscle because that's
Exactly.
just part of the
You know,
experience, trial and error.
that's so huge, Greg. I would say probably for the first like 5 years of me like really, really training diligently when I got out of college, maybe from say 21 to 25, I used to keep like a notebook. I would
Yeah,
keep a diary
me too.
of
Yeah,
what I was eating, and I would keep a diary of what I trained that day, how I felt, okay, what went wrong. And I would use this diary to, help myself master and understand, like you're saying, Smith machine, that's 3 workouts in a row. I tried the Smith machine. It didn't feel good. I think
yeah,
I'm going to stop trying the Smith machine. you
yeah,
know, you have to take the initiative to say, I am going to track what I'm doing. I'm going to find out how many calories I need to eat in order to grow. Right.
yeah,
A lot of people are just saying, oh, I don't get results, man. I don't have good genetics. No, you're not trying. You're not actually doing what you need to
yeah.
be doing.
You don't even know yet until you train for years and years and years. You won't know if your genetics, because at that point the genetics will either propel you to even look better and get better, or well, they'll still get you at you'll still gain some mass and drop some fat, but you'll know to a certain extent of how far you can go.
Right.
And that's
Dude,
so
that's so funny, Greg. I got to tell you this real quick, man, because I don't know how much time we have left. But I always tell the
okay.
story. When I first got out of college and I started training, there used to be the Flex magazine. You know
Yeah,
Flex magazine?
yeah, I got some over there actually.
Yeah,
Well,
it was a picture of Flex Lewis. You know Flex Lewis?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just like absolute monster. I think he was like competing in like the 212 at the time.
yeah.
And I saw a picture of him on the front of the magazine, just looking absolutely shredded. And I was thinking to myself, I was probably about 20, maybe 19. I thought, man, if I keep working out, I'm going to look like that. That'll be freaking sick.
Yeah.
Right. And like you're saying, it took me 5 years of training really hard and tracking to realize, oh, okay, I actually can't look like him. It's actually not possible for me to look like him.
Yeah.
One, because he's doing things I'm not doing, but two, genetically, like my body's just not built that way.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's so funny that you bring that up and saying like, hey, you don't really know what you can do until you actually try and you actually track for a while. But I was really excited, man. When I was 20 years old, I picked up those magazines and I thought, man, all I got to do is work out and I'll look like that.
Yeah. It's I remember I was looking back actually at one of our like old DMs, just like looking, and I think it was a picture of, I think it was like Stanimal. I forgot his last name. Yeah, I think he's like a French open bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And like it was like hard work, determination, and you're like in steroids, and I was like, nah, he doesn't. I was like, maybe he does it, but like who knows? He's been pretty steady throughout the years, and obviously he's
Now
obviously on
right?
something.
Now
Yeah.
Like at the time, that was probably a couple of years ago. I remember when I sent you that DM,
Yeah.
and you were like, "Really? You think?" I'm like, "We'll see."
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I was like, it doesn't make it. Like I wouldn't be surprised, but like I don't think so. But
Yeah,
obviously, they all have to be on a level playing field with each other.
of course. And
Um,
that's it's part of the sport. It is what it is.
yeah, it's one of those. It's that extra. That's that big step because there's some people obviously going back to the genetics. There's a few natural guys, competitors in my gym, and they're absolutely like insane. Like
Yeah,
the one yesterday I saw was curling 75s for like sets of like 6 or 8. And I was like, okay, I'm benching 90s right now. That's
yeah,
crazy.
pretty much.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God. But then if you wanted to, which you probably could, if you wanted to get and go into like a pro stage and be competitive, he knows that he has to take something to get to
Yeah.
that next level because he's kind of, rinsed that rag of all the natural potential he
I
has.
mean, that's a really like. You could have a whole other podcast on that altogether, but talking about what makes someone make that decision, right? And
Yeah.
what is because it is a big move. It's a big jump saying like, hey, I like to work out and I like to be lean and muscular, but how much do I like to work out? Do I want to compete?
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, you making that decision of, hey, I'm going to do some form of exogenous hormone in order to get to that level. And it's a big discussion then. It really is, about
Yeah.
naturals competing natural and how good would those naturals be if they decided to hop on something. it makes the sport really interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I used to be, I don't know your opinion on it, but it's one of those things that like when I was younger, I was like, steroids are like super. I mean, obviously they're detrimental to the health to a certain extent, and could be very, very bad for your health. But the pro guys do it as healthy as possible, getting blood work, this and that. And it's one of those things that if I see or I know people that are on anabolics, I'm like, all right, if you're doing it for whether it be your career, you're a pro bodybuilder or trying to be, or you do it because you want to look good, DJs down the shore. Oh, if you don't know that, it's a big. I was like, it's a big like beach bar
Yeah, yeah.
in
I
South
figured
Jersey.
you
Yeah,
said
yeah,
this tour, so I figured I've seen the show.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But if you want to get big, and sometimes I know people in my town that have taken stuff and go to the gym like twice a week, and I was bigger than them in eighth grade, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do you like? I don't get the
You
logic.
justify that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it, but it's
Well,
one of the things.
people are
Yeah,
doing things, Greg. There's some people who are doing things for the right reasons. There's some people who are doing things for the wrong reasons, and
yeah,
the guy who's trying to go down to the bar on the shore, and he doesn't care about working out, man. He's going there to try to, get a little bit of confidence so he can go,
yeah,
take it home. I don't know. He
yeah,
doesn't want to compete in bodybuilding, most likely.
yeah, yeah,
What's interesting, man, on that topic, and again, this has been awesome, and there's so much like good things we can talk about. Have you heard of the More Plates, More Dates
yeah,
YouTube channel?
yeah,
I love that guy, man. I listened to him, and like I've never taken steroids in my life, right?
yeah,
I probably never gonna, but listening to that guy talk about like the right way to take these drugs and the science and the kind of the pluses and negatives, the pros and cons, is really enlightening to see that there's people out there who have experience. They're trying to share
yeah,
with people in this industry and help them make educated, informed decisions rather than just saying like, I want bigger biceps, man. Let me start taking some trend at 18. Like, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa.
There's definitely probably the past 4 or 5 years. More plates, more dates. I know there's a few. I think it's like Muscle and Fitness. Dennis James has a podcast. There's so many of these bodybuilding podcasts that are run by actual bodybuilders that are in it or just retired, and they talk about, because they do Q&As. They talk about, just like you said, um, what to take, what to stay away from, and like you said, how they felt. Like, oh, I got night sweats when I did this. Nobody should ever take that. It was such a big mistake.
Yeah.
This and that. Don't go black market for this. Try to get pharma grade
Yeah.
gear.
It's
And it's
really valuable information, man. It's
yeah,
valuable information because it is kind of like it's historically been kind of a taboo subject that no
yeah,
one historically wanted to ever talk about. You had pro bodybuilders who are 285 saying that they're taking, muscle farm protein. And it's like, what else?
yeah, yeah,
Now it's coming to the surface. People are being able to authentically give advice to the point where like you're going to stop seeing people make bad decisions because there's just so much good information out there.
yeah. And now it's, unfortunately, there's a trend of, if somebody's above 290 in their off season, they're an open bodybuilder, like, oh, he's going to be the next Dallas. He's going to die soon. Oh, and it's like, oh my God. First of all, what, like, where do you get the nerve to even say that? And
Yeah.
then like on the guy's page,
Yeah.
and it's like, just because he's above a certain weight does not mean he's gonna.
Right.
Just because
No.
I'm above 220 doesn't mean I can be a basketball player, a football player.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's like, it makes this
It's not that arbitrary. What happened to Dallas was actually really, really interesting because, it was believed that he had an underlying heart condition as well.
yeah,
He had an underlying heart condition as well. And then he definitely was blasting really high levels of exogenous hormones, as you can imagine, being the level of that. So it was kind of like really like maybe the combination of those two things, really more than just him being 290 in the off season.
Yeah, and I know a guy like Lou Sandow, right when he passed away, about a year and a half ago, I guess now. People were saying, "Oh, must have been, the growth hormone, must have been this," and it was like, well, no. Then the rumor came around that it was, possible suicide, and then Bear was like, no, that's not that. It was, I think, a heart problem also, that he's had since he was born or something, and it was all those people, the hundreds of posts, probably thousands of posts saying, this and that. Don't take steroids because of this. And obviously you shouldn't unless you have a goal to be like make it a career or whatever.
Right.
But it's like people are so quick to, they almost want to be like the first person to give the news, no matter if it's right or wrong. It's like it's crazy the whole social media. Just they think their comment has so much weight to it just because they commented.
And it's almost like the stupider the comment is, the more attention it gets, because it's of the reason that it's stupid. You know, like if I say something really, really dumb and you know, outlandish on a post, everyone's gonna like and comment back to my stupid comment. Therefore, more people are gonna have eyes on me. And, you know, it's crazy. Hey, did you see that thing with what's the guy, the bodybuilder who like freaked out in the gym?
I knew you said it. Guy Cisternino. Yeah.
And then like he went on his Instagram and was like pleading his case. And it honestly was great for his page, because he probably picked up thousands of followers, but everyone was like ripping on him, and it was just bringing so much attention in the industry.
Yeah.
To this crazy scenario. And for his business, it was probably great.
He's literally, there's a few things during that. I watched part of that Instagram live. Yeah, one of the kids that he actually yelled at got on and was like, no, yeah, it was our fault. Like we were doing this and that. And then guy was like, I was just raised that way, but I probably should have handled it differently. But then going back, like to get to the rise of somebody, he was getting death threats. I'm going to go to your house. You're going to earn it. Like you're going to get what you deserve rather. And it's like, it's funny when sometimes not that, but when people say like, they say something like about someone's mother or something horrible.
Yeah.
And then like say guy goes, what did you say to me? He goes, oh no, I'm a fan. I just wanted to get your attention. And it's like
what?
It's like you just made his blood pressure go up just because you wanted to get his attention for a single like on your DM. But
it's crazy. You know, it's a toxic environment if you let it be. You know, if you let it be, and that's why I'm a big believer, Greg, in like just spreading some positive message to people. You know, whether it be, you know, a word of encouragement, like, hey man, you're looking great today. Like, hey, you know, or just whatever. You know, the positivity goes so far, man. Like,
it's like you said, like those little comments, like whatever you compliment someone's shirt or something minimal that you think is so dumb to you, but they're having a bad day and they're like, oh well, at least somebody noticed that. Or even a thing with a girl, oh, you do your hair? Oh, nice.
Yeah,
and
like
their
my life might be falling apart, but I got a compliment on my hair, so
yeah. And their day is made. They're out of a bad mood, and everything is perfect in their world for now. It's so crazy. And we definitely need to hop on again and just talk about like that whole mind construct with social media, because
let's do it, man.
Just like BFR, we can be on here for 3 episodes, I'm sure, just talking about it.
No doubt.
But kind of just switching off to the end, or I have a few more kind of little myths or not that I think are fun. Number 1, if you aren't sore the next day, you didn't train hard enough.
I love this one, man. I love this one. So soreness really is simply just a breakdown of muscle tissue and then the byproduct of that breakdown, right? So that's all soreness means. Now, when you're sore, it's great because, I mean, everybody, man, you do a chest workout and you have that sore chest. How good does that feel, right?
Yeah.
It feels tight. I feel like I'm growing.
For you.
But in reality, that's actually muscular damage. So it's been proven, you know, quite consistently over the last, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 years, that a sore muscle has no correlation whatsoever to a quality muscular developmental workout. And they even show that if you're too sore, that means that you damage the muscle to a point where it actually has to take so much effort to rebuild itself that it's not actually going to get the benefits of growing in terms of hypertrophy. Yeah. So, you know, for the longest time, I trained in the gym to get sore. Literally, like I would say, okay, I got to do triceps until my triceps are sore the next day. And that's how I know it's a good workout. Now, like I said, you know, I've been doing this for 15 years training in the gym. Now I don't look for soreness in my workouts. Like you said, after you do this for a while, you start to learn about your body. Now what I look for is other types of feelings, other types of sensations, other than just soreness. So long story short, you do not have to get sore to have a good workout. It's not the end of the world if you do, but it might mean you might have just pushed a little too hard even, to the point where maybe training the muscle beyond the level that you need to get the benefit. Have you heard the terms like stimulate, don't annihilate?
Yeah, the Lee Haney, I think, said that. Yeah.
So too, yeah. So, stimulate the muscle, stimulate it so that you go and you recover, muscle protein synthesis, all the good stuff happens. Don't just crush it to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even sit down on the toilet. My quads are so sore.
Yeah. 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 I think it's kind of just give people reference. So like example, during quarantine, everybody was doing their little home workouts, this and that. But then when you go back to the gym, you think you can train as hard and as heavy as you did before. So, of course, I did the same thing. I did legs and I was sore for like 10 days. So that means I couldn't do legs that next week. So by going too hard and creating too much of a traumatic response or stimulus, I missed the next week's workout. So that's kind of that tedious you have to build into it so that when you get up there, those workouts that are hard, heavy, intense are even better than the initial one that you would have done. So yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree.
That's a great point, man. It's a great point.
Number 2, you can only lose weight by cutting out all the carbs.
It's a tough one. So there's so many diets, Greg. There's keto and there's low glycemic diets and there's intermittent fasting. And really what it comes down to, my belief system in terms of cutting weight, and you might agree with me on this, you might not, is that in order to actually cut weight off your body, you have to be in some sort of caloric deficit, right? So it's not just a matter of carbs, fat, and protein. If, my maintenance caloric intake, let's say it's 2,600 calories, and I'm eating 3,000 every day, I'm not going to lose that much weight.
Yeah.
Right. So, are carbs the enemy? Is fat the enemy? It just depends on the person a lot of times. It depends on what kind of carbs. Now, carbs are the body's source of fuel that we store and use quickly. So if you go in the gym and you train really hard, your body is going to use the carbs as its first fuel source.
Yeah.
Okay. This means that if we overload on carbs and we don't use it as fuel, then it's going to get stored as fat for most people. Mm-hmm. But regardless, you still have to be in that caloric deficit. So your body is using the calories for fuel rather than storing them in the form of body fat.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the kind of like common misconceptions that I know some people are like, all right, I'm going to lose some weight and I'm going to just try to eat, 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day, and have like only trace carbs, which is like, chicken or whatever it's going to be part of. And you probably will lose weight, but you're going to halt at some point and probably not be able to break past that halt.
And then not only that, but then you're going to change your body's insulin sensitivity to some degree. When you go and you go and you reintroduce chocolate cake into your diet, your body's going to have this insulin overload, and here goes the storage of the body fat again.
Yeah, it's that spike of insulin, like you said, and that's why I kind of always, obviously, I never because if people ask me like if they want me to write them a diet plan, I kind of stray away from that, but tell them like you do with the challenge, like a basis, and just kind of like explanation, protocol, and I'm like, you might think it's crazy, but have 4 or 5 meals and just have them, break them down smaller and have them throughout the day, because you don't want to have a spike of insulin at 8 a.m, spike at 12, spike at 8 p.m, because that obviously won't help with appetite with X, Y, and Z. And also you'll have your meal at 8 a.m. By 10 a.m. you're going to be hungry, you're going to be craving, and there's more time in between, which means more time to have air, more time to cheat on your diet, more time for this.
There's just so many strategies, man. You're making some good points. I mean, this is another podcast for sure. Diet with Greg and Dale. Like, we'll talk to you all about it. I've tried every diet there was in the world, and I've tried it. And I've fallen back on, making it very simple, Greg. When I want to put on a couple pounds of muscle, I did that over the last couple months. I maybe put on another a pound of muscle or 2, maybe. I went up to a caloric surplus, getting in sufficient amounts of protein, carbs, and fat. eating above my maintenance caloric intake, and I put on a little bit of muscle because I was training hard.
Yeah.
And summertime came. I said, hey, I sit around 175, and I said, I want to really cut down the core nice and tight, get tight, like you're working on too. So I said, I really want to get down to a 172, 173. And so what did I do? I brought the calories down slightly.
Yeah.
I didn't do like you said. I didn't say no carbs. No, I still have carbs. I use them as fuel.
Yeah.
I just brought the calories down. And that's just what I do. That's what I do. That's what I've learned over 15 years, what works for my body, how I can, control with what I'm doing. But
yeah,
so many different things, man.
Yeah. And there's through this past, 45, 50 minutes we've been talking, there's so many common themes of trial and error with your body. See what works, see what doesn't, see how fast or slow you respond. And it's not just, that only relates to, carbs or nutrition. It relates to obviously carbs, nutrition, training, life in general, everything. It's just so you have to just try. And who cares if you say, I think my maintenance is 3,200 or 3,000. All right, I gained a pound in 2 days. All right, well, let's try 2,900. See what happens then.
Yeah, exactly.
The world's not going to end if I gained a pound in a week. It's like, who cares? It's going to go back down as easy as it did go up.
Exactly.
But it's, like I said, common themes. But next one, here we go. Cardio before, it kind of goes before. You mentioned it before. Cardio before weight training is better.
It's tough to say, man. I read a really good book recently. Sal DiStefano is the guy who wrote it. Really good trainer, world-renowned trainer. And it was called The Resistance Training Revolution was the name of the book. Highly recommended if you're interested in this. And he was showing all this incredible research about how resistance training, when done right, can actually burn way more calories than cardio training ever will.
Yeah.
Okay. And what he's talking about is you're going in the gym and you're training with resistance, you're lifting weights. You're getting the immediate benefit of burning calories because you're working out. But then secondary, when you build muscle improves your metabolism. So a body that has more muscle mass is a body that has a higher metabolism. So if you go in the gym and you see that guy who's on the treadmill night after night after night, and he's 280 and sloppy, and you wonder how come he's not getting any better, it's because he's not really training his body the way he needs to. So I think the question, Greg, might not be before or after with our cardio, but actually the question is, what are we trying to get out of cardio training?
Yeah, it depends the goal, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
It depends the goal. So if I'm trying to do, 10 minutes on the stairs to burn a little bit more calories, to lose a little bit more weight, is that the goal? Or was the goal actually to build muscle in the gym? Because if your goal is to build muscle in the gym, you better be putting all of your effort into lifting heavy shit.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So in that case, for me, I do cardio after if I'm going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because my number one goal when I get to the gym is I say, hey, tonight I'm hitting a chest day, and I want to make sure that my energy is focused on getting my pecs best workout that I can and working my shoulders. And I'll save the 10 minutes on the stairs for when I'm dead tired, just to burn a few more calories. Okay.
Yeah.
If your goal is to improve your cardiovascular endurance, you might want to do cardio first, right? If your goal is to run a marathon, go train cardio first before weights.
Yeah. Use that fuel for whatever your goal is.
Exactly. It's another really good question.
I think it also goes with, obviously, if you're training to gain muscle, you do resistance training beforehand. And then also, like in my state, and I think your state too, you mentioned, if you're trying to shed some pounds, shed some body fat, you're using all the fuel and then the glycogen, if you want to get into it, for the workout. And then say your glycogen storage is depleted. Now you're going to go and do 10 minutes on the Stairmaster, and now you're going into the other fat storage or other forms of fuel, which will help you with that fat loss.
Exactly. Yeah, it's another good question. What's funny is because you ask these questions and almost expect there to be like, well, you don't because you're a knowledge guy, but a lot of people expect there to be a black and white answer.
Yeah.
But you really quickly realize, this Dale guy, he doesn't know anything. He's not giving any answers. Well, there is no answers. There's no like yes and no, black and white, this and that. It's depends.
Yeah, and it's and going off of the losing weight thing, it's I get so many questions from like friends and family, like, oh, you lost like, a good amount of weight. Like, how far are you running? I'm like, I haven't ran in months. I don't know. I don't know who told you that you have to run to lose weight.
Oh, Greg, man, you're telling me, dude. Like I said, I kind of like uh, slimmed down a little bit. I got kind of a little bit lean for summer, if you will. And
Mm,
I put up a post on my Instagram. Abs were showing. Everyone said, "Man, what do you do for cardio?" I was like, "I lift stuff."
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like,
that's just me. That's just me. I'm naturally like super thin, so it's easy for me to cut down. Whereas another person may have to, use that 10, 15 minutes of cardio after their session, like you said, to get
yeah,
into those fat stores a little bit more.
yeah. And it goes back to one of those things. Um, so like some of these fitness influencers, if you will, they'll do like a picture like that, and they'll get, oh, what's your program? What are you doing? Like, oh, I'm doing. Even if they say like, oh, I'm just doing like 15 minutes of cardio 3 times a week, they're like, oh, it's because you added more to your stack. You're taking more anabolics, right? It's
It's always that, right? It's never, oh, that this person is working harder than you. It's always
yeah,
that they're, taking this, or they have this, or
yeah.
better
It's
genetics.
it's either the steroids, the genetics are. Oh, if that was my job, I'd look the same. And it's like,
Sure you.
well, okay, but
uh,
I got one last question, and it's kind of like a theme on my podcast. I give like a silly kind of would you rather. So
yep.
just to end on a lighter note, because we
Do
got
it.
pretty deep on some
Oh
things
yeah.
and some BFR. Um, would you rather sleep standing or drink your food forever?
You know what? That's actually not that hard of a question for me. I would, you said drink my food forever,
Yeah,
meaning like I had to make a smoothie out of everything.
yeah. So
I
like
guess,
chicken or rice, anything you
yeah,
make.
like I'm having pizza, I got to make a pizza smoothie.
Yeah,
So Greg, I'm a big time relaxation guy. I love laying down on the couch. I love sitting in my chair. So sleeping standing is out for me, but I will make a pizza smoothie and find a way to make it taste good. So
jeez.
I'm drinking my food, man. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I agree with you, but
Yeah,
it's gonna be hopefully I can get it down.
it's
And
gonna be rough, but hey,
yeah,
we're smart guys. We'll figure it out.
yeah, we'll get used to it after a year. But
That's a good one, man. I like that.
yeah, I've definitely asked some dumber ones, but I wanted to keep it kind of nothing too crazy because this was a good
Yeah,
podcast.
I like it.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is like we said, this is a lot of good information we talked about, and we kind of just scratched the surface of what other topics we could reach.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Really, really good stuff, Greg. So I'm happy to do it again, man. I'll have to have you on mine, and then we'll
Yeah,
go from there.
looking forward to it, man.